Harry's actually up to in America. He's been labelled a glorified house husband by insiders who claim...
Every time I see a photo of you, you're holding hands, you're kissing, you are so...
Disappointed and disillusioned with his life in America. Rejected by Hollywood. Nothing.
For years, the public believed a very simple story, almost too simple to question. Prince Harry would never break. No matter what headlines screamed, no matter how brutal the criticism became, he would stand beside Meghan Markle like a wall that could not be shaken. Every scandal, every rumor, every controversy that exploded across the internet seemed to bounce off him. He took the hits, he absorbed the pressure, and he never once said anything that sounded like doubt. But here's the problem with stories that look perfect from the outside. Sometimes they are hiding something much messier underneath, because behind the polished interviews, the carefully managed appearances, and the public narrative that insisted everything was strong and united, something else was quietly unfolding, slowly, quietly, and almost invisibly. Something that only became obvious much later when people started replaying certain moments and realizing the signs had been there all along. And the moment that cracked everything open didn't happen in front of a giant crowd or during a dramatic television interview. It happened somewhere far more unexpected, a quiet wellness event in California where almost nobody thought anything historic would be said. But then Harry spoke, and what came out stopped the entire room cold. The sentence was short, almost casual, but the meaning behind it detonated across the internet within hours. Freedom can look a lot like a cage. Those 7 words changed everything, because suddenly people started asking the question nobody had dared ask before. Was Harry actually happy in the life he had chosen? For years, the narrative had been locked in place like concrete. Harry had chosen Meghan over everything, over the palace, over tradition, over the royal family itself. The image was crystal clear, a devoted husband who walked away from a kingdom for love. And honestly, it looked convincing. Prince Harry finally addresses. He didn't just talk about loyalty, he performed it publicly again and again. Every time criticism came flying toward Meghan, Harry stepped forward like a shield. Every time the media erupted with another controversy, he stood beside her without hesitation. The public saw a man who had sacrificed everything for love. But sacrifice has a strange way of aging over time. At first, it looks noble. Then, slowly, it starts looking heavy.
No wonder Prince Harry is so loyal to Meghan Markle. She has made 3 important sacrifices that no one else could make.
And Harry carried that weight for years. He walked away from the only world he had ever known. The royal structure that had shaped every part of his life disappeared overnight. The palace, the traditions, the people who had surrounded him since childhood, gone. From the outside, it looked bold, romantic even, a prince choosing love over duty. But what nobody saw in those early years was the quiet cost that decision carried. Because Harry didn't just leave a job or a title behind. He left an entire identity. The life he stepped into afterward looked glamorous on the surface. California sunshine, celebrity circles, massive media deals, red carpets, and constant headlines. But the more the years passed, the more something about Harry's presence began to change. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just subtly. The kind of change you only notice when you compare photos years apart. The expressions, the energy, the weight behind his eyes.
Inundated, we've been talking about it actually all day in many ways, about the media, about information and...
For a long time, nobody questioned it. Stress made sense. After all, the couple was under relentless scrutiny. Anyone would look exhausted living under that microscope. But there were moments that made people pause. Small moments, awkward pauses during appearances, body language that didn't quite match the smiles. And then came one of the strangest public moments people couldn't stop talking about, the Dodgers Stadium kiss cam. At first, it looked like a cute celebrity moment. The camera landed on them, the crowd cheered, and they leaned in for a kiss. But something about it felt off, too perfect, too rehearsed, too aware of the cameras. The internet noticed immediately. Clips spread everywhere. Comment sections exploded with the same uneasy observation. It didn't feel natural. And once people started noticing things like that, they couldn't stop seeing them.
You sort of make sense of folks you think that are not doing it right, and then folks that maybe are.
The smiles started looking heavier, the laughter sounded thinner, and Harry, the once carefree prince known for his mischievous personality, seemed increasingly distant, almost like someone carrying a secret weight he couldn't talk about. Still, the public story stayed the same. Perfect marriage, perfect partnership, perfect unity, until that private wellness summit in California. It was supposed to be a small event focused on men's mental health. Minimal press, almost no cameras. The kind of space where people speak honestly because they believe the outside world isn't watching. Harry spoke about life in California, about missing the UK, about the strange feeling of watching his children grow up far away from the place that shaped him. It was emotional but not shocking. Then someone asked a question, a simple one. Have you ever felt like you lost yourself in love? And that was the moment everything changed. Witnesses say Harry froze, not dramatically, not theatrically, just completely still. The smile disappeared, his shoulders stiffened, and a long silence filled the room, the kind of silence that instantly makes everyone realize something real is about to happen. Then Harry slowly exhaled and said something that would explode across the internet within hours. I did. He paused again before continuing. There was a time I didn't recognize the man in the mirror anymore. People in the room said the atmosphere shifted instantly because suddenly this wasn't a prince delivering polished talking points anymore. This was a man speaking from somewhere much deeper. And then came the line that detonated the entire conversation. I thought I was finding freedom, but sometimes freedom can look a lot like a cage.
I've got some defending to do because, of course, the British tabloids are losing it as predicted.
The room went silent, not polite silence, stunned silence, because everyone understood exactly what he meant, even though he never said Meghan's name. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Social media, news outlets, reaction videos, body language breakdowns, psychological analysis threads, millions of people replaying the same moment again and again. And the same question echoed across the internet. Was Prince Harry finally admitting something the world had suspected for years? But the viral clip was only the beginning, because what happened behind closed doors after that moment was even more explosive. The internet didn't waste a single second trying to figure out what those words meant. The clip traveled faster than anything Harry had said in years. Within hours, it was everywhere, slowed down, replayed, dissected frame by frame. People analyzed the exact second his expression changed, the pause before he answered, the way his shoulders seemed to sink as if something heavy had finally slipped off them. Commentators debated the meaning, psychologists weighed in, royal watchers connected dots going back years. And inside the Montecito mansion, the reaction was nothing like the quiet reflection happening online. According to sources close to the situation, the moment Meghan Markle saw the clip, the entire atmosphere in the house shifted instantly. Phones started ringing almost immediately. Advisors were contacted. Messages fired across group chats and private lines. One insider described the scene as pure chaos. Meghan pacing across the living room, phone clenched tightly in her hand, voice sharp and urgent. The instructions were simple but impossible to execute. Get it taken down, call the platforms, contact the press, stop it before it spreads further. But by the time those calls started, the clip had already traveled too far. Millions had seen it. Millions more were sharing it. Freedom can look like a cage had already burned itself into the internet's memory, and once something reaches that level of virality, it doesn't disappear. It becomes permanent. When Harry walked back through the door later that evening, the confrontation began almost immediately. There was no small talk, no easing into the conversation. Meghan went straight at him. According to people who heard about the exchange afterward, she accused him of betraying her publicly. She told him the comment made her look manipulative, like she had trapped him in a life he didn't want. She said critics who had attacked her for years were now celebrating because he had given them exactly what they were waiting for. The frustration in her voice reportedly kept rising as she spoke, her words tumbling faster and sharper. She insisted that everything they had built together, their image, their projects, their narrative, had just been undermined in a single sentence. But this time, something unexpected happened. For years, whenever tension appeared between them publicly, Harry had always been the one to smooth it over. He apologized, clarified, softened the edges. This time, he didn't do any of that. He listened. He stood there quietly. And when she finished, he gave a response so simple, it stunned the room. I didn't destroy anything. I just told the truth. 6 words. No apology, no explanation, no attempt to walk it back. According to insiders, the silence that followed was almost louder than the argument itself. Meghan stared at him for a moment as if she couldn't quite believe what she had just heard. Then she turned, walked out of the room, and slammed the door hard enough that the chandelier above the dining table rattled. It wasn't just another disagreement between two people under pressure. It was something far more significant. Because for the first time in years, Harry hadn't played the role everyone expected him to play, the agreeable partner, the one who absorbs the tension and restores the calm. He had stood his ground. Outside the house, the online storm was getting stronger by the hour. TikTok analysts began dissecting his body language. YouTube commentators uploaded long breakdowns explaining why the moment felt so revealing. Twitter threads ran thousands of posts deep debating what it meant for the future of the couple. And the same media outlets Harry had spent years battling suddenly smelled a shift in the wind. Headlines appeared overnight. Cryptic confession rocks Sussex marriage. Harry's freedom comment sparks speculation. Is the fairy tale cracking? The press didn't hesitate to frame the moment as a potential turning point. Meghan's team responded quickly. Articles began appearing in carefully selected outlets, all carrying a similar tone. Harry, they suggested, had been misunderstood. He was exhausted, emotionally vulnerable, and speaking abstractly about personal growth. The comment, they insisted, had nothing to do with Meghan or their relationship. It was philosophical, reflective, taken out of context. The messaging was polished, professional, and clearly coordinated. But the problem was obvious to anyone watching the original clip. People had seen his face when he said it. They had heard the pause in his voice. And once viewers experienced something that raw, no press statement can convince them it meant something else. As the days passed, something else unusual started happening. Harry didn't rush out to defend the explanation being circulated on his behalf. He didn't release a clarification or attempt to soften the comment. He stayed silent, not angry, not defensive, just quiet. And the people who knew him personally noticed something surprising about that silence. According to friends, he didn't look panicked about the fallout. In fact, several described him as strangely calmer than he had been in months. One close acquaintance said Harry looked almost relieved, as if saying those words out loud, even unintentionally, had released something he had been holding inside for years. Around the same time, his daily life began changing in small but noticeable ways. He started stepping back from the Hollywood social circle that had defined much of their California life. Invitations he once accepted automatically began going unanswered. Calls from industry figures weren't returned. Appearances he would normally attend quietly disappeared from his schedule. People who noticed the pattern described it as deliberate rather than accidental. Harry wasn't simply busy. He was creating distance. At the same time, he began reconnecting with people from a completely different part of his life. People who had known him long before the cameras and celebrity networks entered the picture. Old army friends started hearing from him again. A former aide he had trusted deeply received a call out of the blue. Conversation stretched late into the night, not about projects or publicity, but about something far more personal: identity. The version of Harry these friends remembered had been energetic, impulsive, full of mischief and warmth. The man reaching out now sounded reflective, almost like someone rediscovering pieces of himself he hadn't seen in years. And the most telling part of everything that happened afterward is this: Harry didn't retreat from what he said. He didn't rush to correct it. He simply stayed where that moment left him, standing in a truth that had been building quietly for years. For someone who once wondered if he even recognized himself anymore, that alone might be the biggest revelation of all.